Go ahead.
Hello, this is Marcus Guiliano from Aroma Thyme Bistro, aka the Chef on a Mission. You can find me at chefonamission.com. And it is Tuesday, April 5th, and we're going to be talking seafood today. Jamie, what's this article that we found?
Oh, mislabeling of fish at restaurants may be widespread, studies suggest, is the name of the article.
I've always been on the fence, and I've always been aware of this. I mean, I was told back when we lived in Colorado, Jamie, back in 1998, the chef from the Sunbird there or something, that restaurant on top of the mountain there in Colorado Springs, he would always brag at the chef meetings that he was serving tilapia and calling it snapper. And this is a very common practice at a lot of restaurants. Because what happens is, once you remove the skin and you fillet a fish, you're left with just the fillet, the flesh. And unless it's salmon or something, it's really hard to tell apart one fish from another. Once you clean a fish, it loses its identity very quickly. What does the article say, Jamie?
The article talks about white tuna sushi that you order at your favorite restaurant may not actually be tuna at all, but it is an oily fish known as escolar.
Yes. Escolar, they also call it white bass at some points.
Why do restaurants actually...
Oh, no, I'm sorry, they don't call it white bass. There's another fish they call white bass. Say that again, Jamie?
Why do they actually label white tuna as white tuna instead of escolar?
Because escolar won't sell. Everybody goes to sushi restaurants because of tuna, not because of escolar. So you have your spicy tuna rolls, you have your tuna, and tuna's the prized catch of a fish. So for sushi restaurants, tuna is their mainstay, and just white tuna is another option to put on the menu.
So I did hear that that some states are really cracking down on.
Well, first this article goes into a study done by what college was it?
That's what I was getting towards.
Right.
I was getting towards the fact that Florida has actually cracked down on 86 restaurants.
186.
186 restaurants last year for mislabeling their fish.
And only 24 of them were tuna substitutions. The whole tuna escolar. Now, back in 1998, a customer of ours asked for escolar. Can you serve us escolar? And I had called, this is when we were in Colorado, I had called my seafood vendor in Boston, Steve Conley, and they said, we don't sell escolar. And I said, well, why not? And they explained to me that escolar gives people the runs. So I've never ever even served escolar. It's never even been an option. I believe the salesman at that point. And here in this article, they're nicknaming it the X-lax fish, or the castor oil fish, because it causes diarrhea. If you eat too much, or certain people, it will cause diarrhea. So this is actually interesting. This actually verifies what I was taught back in 1998. So 186 restaurants, 24 of them involved in tuna substitutions. Some of the other substitutions they were doing, Jamie?
We're labeling imitation crab meat, usually pollock, as real crab, while other common substitutions include less costly tilapia in place of red snapper and
there you go.
panja for grouper.
Now tilapia, cheap tilapia fillets frozen can literally cost a restaurant $3 a pound. Snapper is going to be upwards of $9 to $10 a pound. So it's very attractive for a restaurant to actually do this and be able to charge snapper prices and substitute in tilapia. So this is still happening. I mean, I mentioned a reference 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a chef in Colorado was bragging about it. This is still happening today. Now, in Florida, it's a $1,000 fine. Now, up to a $1,000 fine for mislabeling seafood. They talk about a restaurant, Ito Sushi Buffet in Parkland, was fined $500 last year for serving white tuna and calling it tuna instead of escolar. Now, after we read this article, I called my seafood vendor, not what seafood vendor I do on a regular basis, but a sushi supplier that I have a relationship with, and I asked them if they sold white tuna, and she goes, yes, we sell white tuna. And I said, do you sell escolar? And she goes, it's the same fish. And I said, how many sushi, I go to sushi restaurants buy this? She goes, yes, every sushi restaurant they deal with buys escolar. Which means when you go to a restaurant, chances are if you're ordering white tuna, you are getting escolar. Now, white tuna, the only other really white tuna that I would actually know of white tuna being would be an albacore tuna. And that's not quite as popular in sushi restaurants, although they do make They do have a sashimi sushi grade albacore tuna, which we serve here at the restaurant. Those are pole caught, line caught from the Pacific Northwest, small fish, and it's actually one of the safest tunas to eat. What else? Anything else this article is saying, Jamie?
That they were worried about escolar for tuna substitutions, particularly because of health issues. And seafood substitutions has been growing. It's been growing, and it's a growing concern in the industry for the recent years. But you were saying that it's happened 10 years ago.
It's happening 10, 15 years as far as I've known. Chefs openly say it. I'm sure it's happening before that. Now, the big thing on Escolar was what, when I called just now, $8 a pound. If you want to buy like high-end sushi grade tuna, you're going to end up spending $16 a pound. So it's half of the price of what tuna is, or what a true tuna is.
Now, do restaurants know this?
Some restaurants don't know this at all.
Okay.
Some restaurants have no idea. Other restaurants do know what they're doing, and they understand what's happening, and they're just accepting, because Escolar, or white tuna, is more of a generic name that people are going to just associate white tuna with Escolar, and it's just like an understood thing. So the guy who actually got busted here, and they interviewed in the thing, said, well, I couldn't actually sell Escolar, but I can sell white tuna. So it was just, it's always been an understanding that the fish are just marketed like that. For instance, like Chilean sea bass isn't really bass at all. Chilean sea bass is Patagonian toothfish. But as soon as you start adding those other names into it, like tuna and bass, the fish sell. It's more easier for a restaurant to sell. Now, keep in mind, Chilean sea bass is quite expensive now because the stock has dwindled down so far, and the supply is very, very tight on it, and it's not a sustainable catch whatsoever. But it's just sort of some generic terms that they apply to this. So this is really an interesting article, and this is really what I've been saying the whole time about fish. When you buy fish, you really have to understand where it comes from, and don't be afraid to ask the restaurant, the seafood monger, the store you're buying from, where was it caught, when was it caught, and how was it caught. Just wild Pacific salmon isn't good enough nowadays. Is it coming from Northern California, where there's not enough supply of it, and they're not properly monitoring the quotas or the reproduction of the fish? Is it coming from the Columbia River, or is it coming from Alaska, where it's much, much, much more managed? So it's extremely important, those three questions. How was it caught, when was it caught, and where was it caught? And keep in mind, there is nothing wrong with frozen fish, because the actual Escolar that I would call True World Foods, and True World Foods is a nationwide sushi distributor, and we buy one or two products from them, like their pickled ginger, and I do get sometimes albacore tuna from them. But they said that what was I saying?
The Escolar.
The Escolar, their Escolar is actually a frozen product. So most sushi fish actually is frozen because what happens when you freeze fish is you stop the bacterial growth, you stop the microbes right in their path, and that's it, and you usually kill most things. So when the restaurant frosts them, or defrosts them, or refreshes them, as we say in the industry, it's an easier way for the fish to stay fresher and for you to be guaranteed a safer product. So frozen seafood is actually much safer than something that's never been frozen. So frozen seafood is a really good option if you can find it properly frozen. So beware, buyer beware. Tuna, white tuna is not tuna. So avoid white tuna. And I'm Marcus Guiliano. I'm a chef on a mission. You can see all of my videos at marcusg.tv. And thanks for watching and commenting. Thank you.